So yeah, then oops, let me have a look. So where is it? Uh, Yeah, I think we will start now with our session, and maybe the others they show just up a bit later. So a warm welcome to this introduction to the risk management exam, mock exam boot camp. Yeah, as you see, I have prepared here some overview that you know what this boot camp is about. So we will, from now onwards, every Friday evening, we will conduct here a class of about 2.5 hours, and we will go through 5 mock exams, which shall prepare you in the best possible way for the exam itself. Yeah, so it is a live Q&A session. And also some the suggested solutions will be provided. We have here a step-by-step model answer. So we provide some short answers, concise answer with bullet format, but also in a detailed narrative way. And furthermore, of course, also in a visualized way. So therefore, this course is meant that it is very interactive. So I also invite you to contribute. Really, don't be shy. Just switch on the microphone, address your question. Interrupt me also at any time when you have questions, so that we can start here a good discussion, which should then be fruitful for all of us. Let us look into the program itself. Yeah, the program is here organized that we have a mock exams. These mock exams are designed that 5 questions are, so 6 questions are addressed, yeah, and in exam 4 out of them you need to answer. Here we go through all 6 of them, because ultimately with 5 mock exam we succeed to cover the entire syllabus of risk management. Yeah, it's also that we do some theoretical background discussion while we are dealing here with the mock exam questions so far. Yeah, you get model answers. Yeah, for example, if you are asked to prepare a report, then you see, okay, the report shall be structured in this and that way, shall contain these and that elements. Yeah, and I give you also some practical tips for the exam itself. Yeah, that you shall always analyze here the question very thoroughly, that you find out what the question is addressed, or what the question is aimed at, and then that you answer in a structured way. So therefore, please feel always free here to ask accordingly if something is not so clear. And when we discuss, for example, a part of the exam is, of course, a pre-released case study. A case study, where you get then the answers, also the questions to it. And as an introduction, we do it like this: that we have prepared here some 3 to 5 minutes a podcast, which gives you a very fast overview what this case study is about, so that we are all at the same page. Because often it takes, of course, some time to read through here to the case study itself. What is an advantage for you, of course, is that you as a student will be provided with the pre-released study somewhere roughly 4 weeks ahead the exam date. And then you can already start here preparing, that you familiarize yourself with the case study itself, because the case study is the core of the exam. And that's part 1. And in part 2, you have some separate questions here to answer. Yeah, to help you here really to gain a very fast insight, here interactive dashboards are provided as well as part of this boot camp. And we also have some revision videos, which can, of course, be here watched over YouTube. Yeah, so we have here really a holistic program to support you in the best possible way with your journey. Yeah, that you have a successful journey to pass your exam. Yeah, ultimately, if you pass the exam, it's also here a success for us, and therefore we try always here to achieve highest passing rates. Yeah, usually that they almost 30-40% above the averages. Yeah. So we have five, as I mentioned, we have five distinct case studies. Yeah, you see here, I just made here a bit a short overview. Yeah, that you see mock exam one, which we now discuss. Yeah, is about a healthcare PLC here in Malaysia with international subsidiaries. Yeah, and here we dive into the differentiation between ISO 31000 and COSO ERM. We will also discuss here main topics related to cyber risk, as well as the 3 lines defense model. Yeah? That is here coming for free, yeah, so that you have a good impression what would you get if you then embark for this program. Yeah? And then when we further move on week by week, then the second is, for example, an infrastructure group. Yeah? Then we have also an fintech company. We have a capital company. We have another pharma company. Yeah? So we try also here to be diversified in the case studies itself. There is also a separate boot camp where we discuss 14 case studies, but just the case studies. Yeah, not the whole mock exam. It's just about the case studies, and they are really covering various businesses here predominant in Malaysia. Yeah, for example, you have rubber glove industry, you have palm oil industry, you have real estate. So that frankly spoken, in exam, some industry case studies will come up, and you are already then well prepared how to deal with them, because often the case studies, they need not only the risk management knowledge, they need also some background knowledge to the industry, what are their the challenges, the opportunities, the situation about what are the rules, regulation, applicable laws, and so on. So therefore, they give you some time ahead with the pre-released study here to investigate the business environment here of the case study, so that you can already here be prepared. Yeah, you see here, we try really to fully cover here the entire syllabus. Yeah, it's about that we discuss the risk management frameworks. Yeah, that's, for example, here in exam 1 and 2, risk appetite, tolerance, capacity. Yeah, these are here distinct elements which you need to be familiar with, that we also deal here in the first 2 exams. Then corporate governance and risk oversight, risk identification, evaluation, yeah, also about here the risk treatment. Yeah, here you know the TARA framework. Yeah, tolerate, accept, reduce, and avoid. Yeah, that's here an approach how you can deal with risk in general. Yeah, and here especially exam 3 to 5 is particularly diving into that. Yeah, we have also about financial and quantitative risk, credit risk, liquidity risk, and so on. Yeah, we look into the concept of the value at risk. Yeah, we also look into scenario analysis. Yeah. Decision trees, and so on. Yeah? Then it's also about the operational compliance and the conduct risk itself. Here, especially, we have this Basel 3. Meanwhile, it's already rolled out, or is beginning that Basel 4 is being rolled out, specifically dedicated here the banking industry, the financial industry. Yeah? And here it's really about also that we develop a good understanding. It's also about ESG, climate and emerging risk, risk culture, ethics, conduct, and other specialist risk topic such as health and security, health and safety risks. Sorry, it's about here the ISO 40001 standard, and the environmental standard is also here regulated under ISO regime. That's the 14000. Yeah, that's here so far. The program itself. Let us now already dive into the first case study. Here too, it's like this. That we follow here the mock exam structure. Yeah, you know, in the exam, you are allowed to spend roughly 3 hours plus 15 minutes is reading time. Yeah, and then you get the 6 questions, and out of them 4 you have to answer. Yeah, and in section A you have to attempt 3 answers, and in section B at least 1 answer. And in total, of course, you can gain here 100 marks. And each question is about 25 marks, although of course the question itself can have sub questions. It's not that just one simply one line question, and then this is gaining you 25 marks. But we will see. Usually it always starts here with the pre-released study. You will get the background, you will get some information about the governance structure, about the board composition, who are the players, who are here the dominant roles in the company. Then, of course, you will get also some information about the non-independent, non-executive directors, and you have then some topics, risk and control. There is in between the lines a situation described where you have to find out what is good, what is here best practice in that company, but also to find out some deficiencies. And especially the deficiencies you have then to address in exam, because usually it's always about that you have here to identify some shortcomings in the case study in the company, and then propose suggestions for improvement. The questions are addressed in this direction so far. And you see then you have here the question, and then what is required. For example, the question 1 is about the centralized enterprise risk management framework. And here it's about that you should prepare a board evaluating here the ISO 31000 risk management standard with the 11 principles. I intentionally mentioned here 11 principles. In exam, they might say, if you come up with 5 principles, you gain already here maximum marks. Because I try also to cover here as much as of the syllabus as possible. Therefore, the questions are very comprehensive. And then you see in part B here also, sorry, in question 1, part P, it's about here what the COSO enterprise risk management framework is about. And here you have to identify key differences between the two of them, and also similarities, and ultimately whichever would you prefer. And what are here the drivers for this discussion? And I think if you allow me, and if you agree, then we dive immediately here. We start really with the case study up front. And here too, as I mentioned, that we need not to read through all of them. Yeah, I have prepared here a podcast of about 3.5 minutes, summarizing the essence of this case study, so that we have here a certain common understanding, and that you can participate already then in the discussion. Yeah, because we should also discuss what would be the best approach, how to answer this. Yeah, because then it's very fruitful for all of us. Okay, please let me know that you also hear the podcast recording. Yeah?
Welcome to this episode. Today, we're diving into the story of Novatech Healthcare, a UK-based medical tech company that's grown from a small manufacturer to a major player with about 9,500 employees worldwide.
Yeah, and recently, Novatech made a big move by acquiring DigiHealth, a startup that develops AI-powered patient monitoring software. The goal was to boost their digital health presence, but, well, it's brought some real challenges.
Right, like the two companies having very different cultures. Novatech is all about processes, quality, and regulatory compliance, while DigiHealth is more agile and innovation-focused. That clash has even led to some key staff leaving.
And on top of that, their approach to managing risks is pretty fragmented. Each division handles risks differently, mostly focusing on product quality and regulations. But other risks, like cybersecurity from DigiHealth's cloud software, or financial risks from the acquisition debt, aren't well coordinated.
Exactly. This is where enterprise risk management, or ERM, comes in. Think of ERM as a company-wide GPS system that helps identify, assess, and manage all kinds of risks in a coordinated way, not just focusing on one area.
That's a great analogy. Without ERM, important threats can slip through the cracks. Novatech's current setup means there's no common language or process for risk, and no clear way to escalate big risks to the board.
The ISO 31000 standard offers a solid framework for ERM. It's built on principles like integrating risk management into all parts of the business, being transparent, and continuously improving. For Novatech, adopting this would mean better coordination and stronger decision-making aligned with their growth plans.
Speaking of decision-making, Novatech's new CEO, James Okafor, has a higher risk appetite than his predecessor. He wants to move fast and expand aggressively. But without a formal risk appetite statement, managers are making risk decisions inconsistently.
Yeah, it's like driving without a speed limit. Some might speed too much, taking big financial risks, while others might be too cautious and miss opportunities. Setting a clear risk appetite helps everyone understand the boundaries and make decisions that support the company's goals without going overboard.
And with new technology risks from DigiHealth's AI platform, like cybersecurity and data privacy, the board needs to step up. They have to take ownership of risk management at a strategic level and make sure they have the right knowledge to oversee these complex risks.
That might mean bringing in experts or setting up committees focused on tech risk. It's about balancing the CEO's ambition to move fast with the need to manage risks responsibly, protecting both shareholders and patients.
So Novatech's story really shows how fast growth and innovation bring exciting opportunities, but also complex risks. Without a clear, coordinated approach to risk management, companies can face serious problems, from regulatory fines to reputational damage.
Absolutely. Enterprise risk management, a clear risk appetite, and strong board oversight are essential tools to navigate this complexity. And really, it's a reminder for all of us that managing risk thoughtfully is key to success and resilience.
Well said. Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Talk soon.
Yeah, that's here so far the introduction. How do you think, is it helpful that we approach here the case studies in such a way? What's your opinion to that? Hello, are you here? Yeah, okay. So if nobody speaks out because shyness or whatsoever, yeah, then let us just continue here that we dive into the question so far. Yeah. And let us look here first we find out that the Novatech, they have right now no centralized enterprise risk management framework in place. Yeah, it's fragmented. In some divisions they do, in others they don't do. There is no clear focus. This is also the result because of the lacking integration between the mother company and the newly acquired subsidiary, which of course they have a completely different business model. The first one, they are very regulatory and quality quality compliance driven. Whereas the second part needs to have more freedom. To act here also a bit innovative. So prepare a report to the board evaluating here the risk management standards, covering its key principles and framework and processes. And here it's about that we have to dive into the 11 principles of ISO 31000. You know, ISO is the International Standards Organization and is one of the main risk management frameworks which are widely or globally recognized. Also, Malaysia have here adopted the ISO approach, and you will find also some elements in the Malaysian Code of Corporate Governance. And there is, of course, also the Malaysian ISO standard as well. They name it then the M31100, closely related, almost a copy-paste approach here in terms of risk management. And with ISO, of course, you can be certified. And this is really here an enhancement, a kind of quality label, especially in some industries like aviation industry, like automotive industry, health industry, and so on, in technical industries. Anyway, ISO, although it is on voluntary basis, is a must. Because without having ISO, you are not part of the supply chain. So therefore, it's voluntary, but on the other hand, has a mandatory component if you want to do here business in a supply chain. So therefore, of course, it's like this that we have here the suggested solutions. These are model answers, how you can approach them. And you see here, question 1 is about that the core is about the 11 principles. So what are the principles of ISO? That's an integrated approach. Of course, ISO is very holistic. They say that risk management must be embedded into all organizational processes and decision making. So it is not a standalone activity. It's not a siloed activity. Therefore, ISO is not satisfied with a standard risk management approach. ISO goes the further way, or the best practice way so that you have here the so-called enterprise risk management approach, a holistic approach, integrative approach. Then, of course, when you think about another principle, it's about that here the framework itself is structured and very comprehensive, and therefore here that especially helps here Novatech, this company, because they lack here a standardized methodology. They can really take here the guidelines of ISO 31000 and implement here this framework as far as suitable. It's always about that you have in principle the approach apply or explain. In Malaysia, this is allowed. So therefore, you can just take whatever tools, whatever components of a framework is suitable for you and implement it accordingly. And that you explain why you're doing this. And then you are compliant. Yeah, so far, especially when you are a stock listed company, because in a stock listed company, yeah, it is part of the Bursa Malaysia listing requirements, yeah, especially in the main market, that you need to have also a functioning risk management in place. Yeah. Third point, yeah, is it is customized. That means, yeah, you can here customize it accordingly to the needs and therefore, yeah, adapt it accordingly. It shall be inclusive, of course, insofar as here several departments shall be part of risk management, so that it is really deeply rooted in the company, yeah, and that there is an awareness also among the lower operational levels as well, that everybody knows about, in my environment, yeah, even if I'm working at the working bench in the production, yeah, there are risks, yeah, and I have to mitigate them. Yeah, that's here in inclusive approach. Yeah. It must be dynamic. Yeah? That doesn't mean that when you implement, for example, the ISO risk management framework one time, yeah, that's it. And then you never ever do anything anymore. Yeah, the whole year passes by, and only if there is an audit, then let me say 1 week before you update your framework. That doesn't work. It shall be really that always even anticipates here the changes, yeah, so it shall be forward looking, yeah, and therefore very flexible, very agile. Yeah. Yeah, then of course it's about best availability of information. It's also about here human and cultural factor. We saw here that this Novatec has also an issue with the cultural integration. Yeah, if two companies come together in a merger, of course each company brings with them their own culture, and therefore of course at the beginning there is a culture clash, and you have to overcome this, because that would lead here to losses. Yeah, we heard also here in the introduction that the company is a bit struggling, that they're losing talents. Yeah, so it's about also talent management, retaining of the best talents. That is here also a topic. What can here be mentioned under the cultural factors, under the human factors. Yeah. ISO also emphasizes that continuous improvement shall take place. Yeah, it is about value creation and protection. Yeah, ISO doesn't stand alone for itself. ISO shall contribute to the value creation. How can this be? Yeah. How can this be? Because the implementation, the setting up, the running costs money. Yeah. So therefore, ISO, yeah, the risk management itself must earn back this investment and these costs. And how this is possible? Yeah, by better decision making. Yeah, because the decisions are more backed up by fundamental data. Yeah, you have a risk profile. Yeah, you exactly know what is the probability of a risk event to happen. What is the severity of the risk? Yeah, how much is my risk exposure? What shall I do to mitigate? How can I reduce the risk? Yeah, and therefore you as a manager, you have a more selection when you do decision making. So then automatically you decide, yeah, you make better decision, which saves money, yeah, because you are not exposed to that high risk, and ultimately brings more money because you select the better opportunities available. Yeah, that's here. Of course, you might say now, yeah, this is tricky to measure. Yeah, of course, it's a bit tricky to measure. You don't have an account in your ledger where you exactly see, the savings by the risk management is this. And therefore, often in practice, we have this discussion, whether risk management makes sense, especially in small and medium-sized companies. Risk management is often done out of a gut feeling. Sometimes, okay, I will recognize there is risk, but there is nothing institutionalized, nothing standardized, nothing implemented so far. But for you to memorize, here the ISO framework is looking here to contribute here a lot of value. Then of course leadership and commitment, and it is an evidence-based approach. Please feel free also to ask me at any time if some questions are left, so that we can discuss. Otherwise, I don't have any feedback from your side. It's also important to know a good lecturing is also based on the feedback of students. Students are encouraged here to contribute, to discuss, because then we can find out, okay, you have a question here, you have a question there, something is not clear, then we can address this. It's not just passive listening. That's nice, you can grab some knowledge, but really if you really interact with the topic itself, and actively participate in a discussion, then you automatically learn already. That you should here know. Then, of course, you see here the 6 steps, how you should implement here the ISO, or what are the 6 steps of the risk management process. It's about communication and consultation. It's about the scope. It's about risk assessment, treatment, monitoring, and review, and recording. And you see here, you are asked in that particular case, please prepare a report. So a report always starts, to whom the report is addressed. Of course, in this case, the report is addressed to the board of Novatech. So what is the subject? The subject is the evaluation of the risk management standards. By whom it is prepared. These you might laugh now about, but a report shall start like this. Who is preparing it? Of course, in this case, the company secretary. We are, or you are becoming here a qualified company secretary and a company administrator. So therefore, the preparation shall be done accordingly. And then you start with a short introduction. Here it's already very, very comprehensive. So what is this right now, the status quo? You start always in an introduction. What is the status quo? And then you explain why we are diving, why this report is coming up. And then you explain what is the content of the report, and you bring exactly the points which needs here to be discussed. You see here, Novatech is currently operating, has no consistent risk scoring, no formal process, and therefore you prepare already the management, that the management will be briefed. It would be good to implement ISO 31000. This report shall ultimately convince the management to implement ISO. That's the purpose of this report, and that the purpose of the report shall also be indirectly addressed. And that you can do here in the introduction already. And then you say, this report is evaluating, and you get here this and that insight. And then you start here with the overview. And you see here, of course, all the elements are especially mentioned. And when you mention here the topics, the elements, then you see here for Nova, principle of customization, For Novatech, it means would involve designing risk management. That explicitly addresses the multi-jurisdictional regulatory environment. Because it's about UK, it's about Malaysia, it's about the EU directives and so on. That you should always try also to relate your answer to the case study. Always reference to the case study. Each paragraph, always organize also your answer in paragraphs. And in each paragraph, you say what is the status quo, what is the recommendation, and how, or you say what is the relevance here for the company, and what is the recommendation, so that it makes a logic flow. First you say, okay, that's the status quo, that's here the shortcoming, that would be a solution because of, and you can also, of course, integrate your own opinion as well. You need not always to be that you say only according to this standard that would be feasible. You can say, as a company secretary, I would propose this and that. And then you say why. You justify your answer. In the answer, you give also justification. And that would be best practice how you can deal with answers in the exam. You see here, very, very comprehensive. A lot to read. Already by reading, you would learn here then a lot. This is also meant that you can use here the read out loud function. That you just go and say, okay, I want here from here onwards, I want to hear what it is about.
Step, monitoring.
Then you can just use it in that way. That helps you also here to deal with the topic, or with the answers, or with the questions itself. First you have to deal with the question. More comfortable, of course, is it, and that I will show you how we do it for the students, so that the students here have here really a fast forward approach. That's with the dashboard. So the dashboard is summarizing. Is summarizing and giving here really the highlights what you should do. So we have here the overview, the 6 questions. Then you have here also a bit of analysis. What is this mock exam about? And then you dive into the question itself. You see, the first question is about the ISO and COSO. And then you see, okay, you have here the principles to list. And you see here, don't just describe ISO in abstract. Every principle must be referenced to digit health and to the CEO's behavior or audit findings. And then you see here, okay, you have to each principle a short sentence. And you see, risk is part of all activities, not confined to quality and regulatory only. Novatech CEO must embed risk in every strategic decision making. That's very fast forward, concise, directly addressing the issue. So if you learn, and if you prepare then for exam, then this is the best way how you can do it. And it is also very time saving, because you have the highlight in just one icon here. Principle 2, structure and comprehensive. Consistent methodology decisions use different risk logs. No standardization, requires common taxonomy and scoring. You have the passwords here summarized, and then of course in exam you make just a sentence out of it. Because each student has their own way to express a content. I cannot say, you have exactly to use this verb and this substantive and this noun and whatsoever. That's up to you. But what I provide here is that you have the big bullet points, the passwords here summarized in a very concise way. How do you rate this approach? What is your opinion to this approach? Any feedback? Hello. Okay, so no feedback. Good. Yeah, then let's here move on. Yeah, we can use here the yeah, this tool also, that we find out, for example, the key differences. Yeah, the key differences in this case are even visualized. Yeah, which helps you also a lot to learn. Yeah, because with one picture you get the point. Yeah, if you ask what are the major differences here between ISO and COSO, yeah, then you can say, okay, you put here a kind, this is the spider web. Yeah, and with the spider web, you can then find out where are overlaps and which tool might be the more suitable one. Yeah, here, for example, it's strategic integration. Yeah, of course, in terms of strategic integration, the ISO has a universal approach, and integrates the processes broadly, but there is no explicit strategy risk model. That, of course, is here addressed under COSO regime. Yeah, COSO regime is core principle that it is inseparable from strategy and performance. Yeah, so therefore the ranking here, when you look here into that, yeah, strategic integration, yeah, then here COSO scores a maximum, whereas ISO has its deficiencies and is only half scoring. Yeah, but in terms of global applicability and flexibility, yeah, ISO is outperforming COSO. Yeah. So ultimately, what is the best? Of course, you combine the both. Yeah, and you see here that you have really a fast forward overview. Yeah, you find it here in that way. You have the dimension. What is the scope? Yeah, you have the different framework, and then a one-to-one comparison. Yeah, for example, risk appetite. Yeah, how it is dealt in ISO 31000. Yeah, it's about reference risk criteria, no detailed appetite architecture. Whereas COSO is more rules based, whereas ISO is more principle based. Yeah? And therefore, we have here detailed appetite, detailed tolerance and capacity framework across organizational level. They come even up with forms and forms, Sporangs to fill in. Yeah, that I get here some Malaysian word as well. Porang. Yeah? The COSO is working with that. Yeah? And here, yeah, you see that would be the comparison. And why you need to do the comparison? Ultimately, to back up your recommendation. Yeah, and what would be the ultimate recommendation in this case? Yeah, here you would say it would be the best strategic approach, yeah, to implement COSO 2017. Yeah, why? The reasons are they are stock listed. They have here explicit strategy risk integration, which aligns with the CEO growth agenda. They have here a governance culture which addresses here CEO dismissal and audit findings. They can do this alongside the 20 detailed principles. You know, COSO has 5 pillars. Yeah, 5 components, 5 pillars, and 20 so-called, also they call it principles. Yeah, where you can where you have guidance how to implement here. Yeah, and then you can say as a complementary use. In this case, I would say, yeah, some elements of ISO would also be here. That they should implement. Yeah, it's not that the ISO is competing against COSO and vice versa. They are complementary to each other. What one framework might lack, the other have. And so far here, that would be the approach. Do you have any questions here to the first question? Anything unclear? Everything clear? Yeah, if you just give a thumbs up or whatsoever, then I know, okay, you are still present. Yeah, we can continue. Yeah, I really wanted here to ask for your feedback so that it is well understood. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I see you that some thumbs up are coming. So, okay, then let us continue here with the risk appetite. Yeah, that's question 2. Yeah, I put it here, the question 2 that we have here also, the overview. And of course, first we need to know what is the question about. Yeah, it's good, a good point to know what they aim for in the question. So, here, yeah, the CEO, I guess, the James Okafor, yeah, stated ambition is to move fast. Yeah, and he has a higher risk appetite compared to the predecessor. Yeah, and that has created some uncertainty at the board level. Yeah, about how much the Novatech should be willing to accept, yeah, in pursuing its strategic objective. Yeah, the current absence of a formal risk appetite statement, which is, by the way, mandatory if you're a stock listed company in Malaysia. You have to come up with your risk appetite statement in your risk management reporting, yeah, which is part of the integrative reporting here, the annual reports. So means that the management decisions on risk acceptance are being made inconsistently. Yeah. So yeah, that we discussed so far. Yeah, and therefore Nadia Bretov and Dame Caroline have asked you to prepare guidance for the board on risk appetite. Yeah, so you as a company secretary, you should here also come up with a suggestion how to deal here with risk appetite. And it should be used to support the governance and decision making. So what is required? Another time, yeah, a report is required. Here addressing the risk appetite in its role, supporting the risk-based decision making. So a clear explanation of the distinction between risk appetite, risk tolerance, risk capacity with examples relevant to Novatech. You see here, your report should include, yeah, this should include, I give here additionally that you can orient yourself, yeah, because we are in a learning phase. So in exam, this paragraph you won't have. Yeah, that they say, hey, please make a clear distinction between risk appetite, risk tolerance, and risk capacity. Yeah, and related to Novatech. Yeah, that you should know. Yeah, and for that knowing, you get the points. Yeah, here I guide you already towards the right answer. Yeah, so that you have here really a good learning effect. That's here the objective. What I want to fulfill with this mock exam case study boot camp so far. That you are really familiar with, and that you can do it even while sleeping, answering such questions. Yeah, and then you get the distinction. So an assessment of how the board should determine and articulate its risk appetite, including the factors that should influence the setting of the risk appetite statement for at least 3 different risk categories. Yeah, that implicitly ask you that you should identify what are their principal risks, what are their main risks. So therefore, 3 different risk categories you should come up with. Yeah, and that you should explain how you should here define the risk appetite. Yeah, and then how a formally documented risk appetite framework can support the compliance with UK governance code, or yeah, you can also here say by Malaysian corporate governance code, because the codes, frankly spoken, they are all very, very similar. Yeah, they have another numbering, but the content, frankly spoken, is one the same as the other. Yeah. And the role of the board and the audit risk committee in setting, monitoring, reviewing the risk appetite. Yeah, here in this case, obviously, we have just one holistic, one question covering here a lot of aspects. So how we can do this? Yeah, we can first look into the sample answer. Yeah. So that's here. Now let me have a look. Then I put here parallel. Yeah. So yeah, question 2: risk appetite, tolerance, and capacity. Yeah, you see here, it's about that. Of course, you need to understand what is risk appetite, a short definition. What is risk tolerance? What is risk capacity? Yeah, they sound very similar, but they have really a different meaning. Yeah, you see here the amount and type of risk an organization is willing to accept. Yeah, that's risk appetite. Risk tolerance is the maximum level of variation around the risk the company or the organization is prepared to accept. Yeah, that's the level. Yeah, risk appetite gives you the amount and the type. Yeah, whereas the risk tolerance gives you a level. There is a variation, a plus minus. Yeah, and the risk capacity is really the maximum amount of risk an organization is able to. It makes a difference. Yeah, yeah. Of course, if you're a bigger company, then you can afford to have a higher capacity. Yeah. What do you think are the drivers of the risk capacity? Other drivers than the size of a company? Any idea? Yeah, drivers might be the profitability. Drivers might be the cash flow. Yeah, the stability of cash flows. Yeah, because ultimately, what does it mean? Capacity. Capacity means what is the maximum level what you can afford to lose in money terms. Yeah, as a ringgit amount. Yeah, and of course, the more equity you have, the more capacity you have. The more reserves you have, also the more capacity you have. Yeah, and the more stable your cash flow is, the more capacity you can bear. Yeah, that's here just to briefly link these terminologies with each other. Yeah, how should the board determine risk appetite? Yeah, should conduct a comprehensive risk assessment to identify the categories. Risk appetite statement should develop here. Yeah? Then statement should be specific, measurable, and linked here to objectives. Yeah? Here also this smart approach comes into place. Yeah, that starts here with specific, measurable, or time bound, and so on. Yeah, yeah. The board should involve, of course, the CFO, the chief risk officer, if is appointed, then also the information officer, chief information security officer, and the risk appetite statement is also not a static one. It shall be always reviewed, periodically, at least once a year. Which categories would you recommend here? Yeah, when you read through the mock exam itself, then it says, okay, there must be a huge risk, a principal risk in terms of regulatory compliance. And in terms of regulatory compliance, there shall be a very low risk appetite. They shall be risk averse. So never ever breach any regulatory approvals. You cannot here be non-compliant, because that ends up here in financial penalties, and also here in reputational loss. It goes even that far that your production license, operating license, can be revoked. So therefore, the Novatech, they are highly dependent here on maintaining the regulatory approvals. If they are not compliant, then they are out of business. And so therefore, this is a major risk and has to be treated accordingly. And when you have such a situation, then you can even propose here, it shall not be only a risk manager, there shall also be a compliance manager. Yeah, that would be even a step up approach here to best practice. Yeah. Then the second most important principal risk you can identify with cyber security and data privacy. Yeah. Here, especially the digi health, yeah, which is dealing here with a lot of sensitive patient data. They must really be, they must have here really be protected, from any cyber attacks. Yeah, what can you do? You should do here really a stress testing. How does the stress testing look like? You go and ask even a hacker, to attack your system, and then you find out where is the weakness of your system so that you can improve that. That is what companies should do in order to be then ultimately at the safe side. Yeah. Yeah, then of course we have a third principal risk. That's the strategic risk and the acquisition risk. Yeah, because the CEO is very ambitious. So if a CEO is very ambitious and very growth driven, yeah, then he or she is pushing the whole team, towards turnover, 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 and growth, growth, growth. Yeah, and often with this comes also some unethical practice. Yeah? And here there is then the risk that let me say that the staff, this the sales staff, they have so high expectations, so high objectives that they cannot even reach. Yeah, and then they even do some bribery and things like that just to win a contract, for example. Yeah, so therefore this acquisition risk is a high one. Yeah. And the strategic risk, it might be questionable if it is just always about growth. You can grow till you collapse. And a lot of companies, they always thought, the top line is the most important one. In my opinion, that the bottom line and even beyond that, the cash flow line, that's the most important. If I succeed, let me say, with 100 million ringgit turnover to generate 20 million cash flow permanently, then it's better than being a 1 billion company and maybe you have some 100 million cash flow. Yeah? Because ultimately the cash flow coverage is here a risk, so a key performance indicator, which would help you here, in terms of strategic risk. What is the best approach? Yeah, then we have, of course, also the financial risk. Financial risk you can always mention. Yeah, therefore I have also mentioned it here. It was just requested to come up with three. Yeah, I add this fourth one because financial risk, any company is exposed to financial risks. And it's about the debts, it's about foreign exchange, it's about capital expenditure and so on. You put yourself a bit into an accountant or chief financial officer, and you look from the perspective of financing, then you know that might be a risk. Of course, if you have a lot of debts in your company so that your now gearing ratio is very high, then of course the access to fresh capital is limited, and that is risky. Capital expenditure, you must spend your investment wisely. Which machinery you buy, whether you buy the more advanced, the technological more advanced, and then you are already prepared for the future, or you just replace the old machinery by another old machinery that you save a lot of money, but ultimately it can fire back, because the second-hand machinery is subject to a lot of repairs. So you must find here a good compromise. And that's why here also risk management looks into, for example, capital expenditure requirements. So compliance, of course, here we have several principles, where this company should be compliant with. Just here to mention the principle. That's the code requires the board to present a fair, balanced, and understandable assessment of the company's position. In exam, you can just say, okay, Malaysian Code of Governance points out that Yeah, you need not exactly know the paragraph or the section, or even the numbering precisely. If you know, and if you can reproduce, of course, it gives you some extra credit. And for sure, if you are borderline, yeah, let me say between distinction and honors or whatsoever, then this would be helpful. Yeah. But I think most students, they are already happy if they can pass. Yeah, mostly it's about, because especially in risk management, the failure rate is pretty high, I would say. Yeah, so a lot of students, yeah, they think, yeah, it's an easy task. Yeah, and then in exam, yeah, also the exam situation gives some stress, and then they cannot make it in the first run. Yeah, mostly self-paced student. Yeah, they have often a second attempt. Yeah, yeah. Then you have here the narrative report. Yeah, the narrative report, because it is mentioned, prepare a report. Here is same. Yeah, report to whom? Yeah, what is the subject and what is then the introduction and so forth. Yeah. And then you go into the topic, you relate the topic to the Novatech situation, and you come up here with a suggestion so far. Yeah, that's here how these points are addressed. Yeah, we can do a short recap. Yeah, that we just look here into this dashboard. Yeah, because I like always to work a lot with dashboards. Yeah, these are HTML programmed dashboards with Python. You do this, yeah, and that gives you a lot of flexibility, and you can highlight with coloring, yeah, and even animate it. Yeah, that you see here. Okay, if I click here, then there is some movement. Yeah, because this helps, yeah, to raise here or yeah, to keep here. The attention accordingly. Yeah. So risk hierarchy, yeah, it's about the risk maximum. Yeah, you see here this differentiation between capacity, appetite, tolerance. Yeah, then it's about the risk capacity. That's the maximum what you can get. The risk appetite is, yeah, what the board policy gives you. The risk tolerance is here, what is the threshold. Yeah, the risk appetite, of course, is here bigger than the risk tolerance, and you should never go to the risk capacity to the maximum. Yeah, and then, of course, you might end up somewhere in between the risk appetite and the risk tolerance, because not everything can be mitigated. So you would always have the so-called residual risk. That is the risk which remains after you already mitigated the gross risk. Yeah? That's here how you can visualize it. Yeah, you see here to summarize. Yeah, risk capacity, outer boundary, objective not chosen. Yeah? Risk appetite, board policy, what we want to accept. Yeah, and the risk tolerance, that is exactly where the escalation triggers. And then we have here the risk appetite statements, yeah, for the different risk categories. Yeah, for example, regulatory and clinical compliance. Yeah, we will not accept any risk that increases the probability of losing regulatory approval, such as this. Yeah. You need not to know here the regulation. That's just that additionally, when it comes to health, yeah, there are special requirements which this company in the sector is exposed to. Yeah? Commercial opportunity never overrides compliance. That's important, yeah, because often, yeah, and if you have such an ambitious CEO, yeah, then there is a high risk that the CEO is overruling even compliance. Yeah, that you need here to understand. Yeah, well, for example, when it comes to cybersecurity and data privacy, there shall be only a very low risk appetite, yeah, for say cyber and data risk, yeah, because we have here also some the data protection penalties. Yeah, they also paid some penalties, yeah, because they were not compliant here, or they have a weak cybersecurity system. Yeah, 17.5 million pounds. Yeah, that's 4% of the turnover. Yeah, just imagine that would one-to-one more profit if it would not be happening. Yeah. So patient safety consequences justifying here investing proportionately in controls. Yeah, so therefore you have here to invest in a lot of risk controls that you can make sure that there is no data breaching whatsoever, no data leakage whatsoever. Yeah, because that's very, very sensitive topics. Yeah. Yeah, and you see here a moderate approach you can take here with the strategic acquisition risk. Yeah, of course, when it comes to strategy, you must always a bit moderate. Yeah, you can even be risk seeking. Yeah, because ultimately with seeking, it's not that you seek risk. Primarily, you are seeking opportunities. Yeah, and of course, the opportunities, they have also some downside potential, which in that case is a risk. Yeah, and then you have just to limit this downside potential. Yeah, moderate appetite. Yeah, disciplined risk taking for value creation. But any acquisition, for example, above 50 million, requires a full risk report to the board prior the approval. Yeah, here usually you say here you don't just make a risk report, you come up with a feasibility study and with a simulation. What does this acquisition means? I personally did this several times for companies when they were involved in merger. Yeah, and acquisition. Then we did a thorough due diligence and we did the simulation. Yeah, what are the effects to our company if we buy this and that company and merge together? Yeah, and really this goes so deep that you have even to come up with a so-called a consolidated merger balance sheet and merger income statement and cash flow statement, on budget basis, that you see what are the consequences. Often, let me say, with merchant acquisition, such things like intangible assets come up with goodwill, and goodwill ultimately influences your result as well, and therefore you have to evaluate such things up front, not that you already agree and later on, there is then the great awakening. Now we are in this and that trouble, in this and that challenge. Yeah, that you can mitigate already up front. You do it with a detailed feasibility study. Yeah, the feasibility study covers all components. You put yourself into the shoes as if you run the business already with the merged company. Yeah, and then you simulate what's happening, what are the risks, what are here the challenges, post-merger integration and so on, and clash of cultures, and that you have all to deal with. Financial risk low to moderate, and talent and culture risk overall low appetite for loss of critical engineering talents. Because especially in this branch, in the new branch, Digi Health, there are not so many talents available on the open market. So you should keep the ones you have. Yeah. That's here addressing here, and therefore don't take here that much risk and don't be too stingy. Just give them a decent salary that they remain with you, not that they proactively say, now the insecurity or is increasing, and before the management is anyway laying off some people, I just look for another opportunity because I don't know where the new merged company is heading to. Often this is happening, and that needs to be addressed already up front when the merger has taken place. There is then a town hall meeting where the CFO exactly says, what was the motivation for this merger, what we want to intend. So to assure the staff, that they are in good hands. That's trust building. Yeah, then of course here UK Corporate Governance Code Compliance. Yeah, that is here that I detailed listed. Yeah, what which provision they must be compliant here with at the minimum. Yeah, that's for you here just to have a detailed insight. Are there any questions left here to this question 2? All clear? Anything you want to discuss? You don't? Okay, then we just move on. If there are no questions, then we just move on. Yeah, the third question is about here the 3 lines of defense and also the internal, international internal auditors with the 5 lines of defense model. And therefore we dive here into deeper into. And first, let us have a look. Yeah, what the question is about, so that we have an understanding. What is asked here. Under question 3. Yeah, under question 3, the internal audit findings highlighted that Novatech's risk and control environment is fragmented. Yeah, that we already know, we already mentioned. There is no consistent second line of defense function. Yeah, Patricia Lim and Nadia Petrov are keen to explore how a more structured assurance model could be implemented across Novatech, particularly given the challenge arising here from the integration of DigiHealth. Dame Caroline has asked you to prepare a comparative analysis of assurance models for discussion at the next board strategic day. Yeah, often companies, they have here a strategic day, yeah, where all the leading all the managers are meeting and discussing what will be the strategy about how shall we adapt, what are here the challenges. So required, prepare a paper for the board evaluating the 3 lines of defense model and comparing it to the international internal auditors updated 3 lines model 2020 and the 5 lines of assurance model. Yeah, your paper should explain the structure and the purpose of the lines of defense. Identifying at least 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages of each model. And what it would, as it would apply for Novatech. Assess the key differences between the 3 lines model, including enhanced role of the governing body, and evaluate whether these differences would address here Novatech's current assurance weaknesses. Evaluate then the 5 lines assurance model, also assess how it could be applied, and provide a more comprehensive view of the organizational risk and control environment. Make a reasoned, you see here, make a reasoned, the intonation is reasoned, recommendation as to which assurance model Novatech should adopt, taking into consideration in its size, its complexity, its regulatory environment, and challenging arising from the DigiHealth integration. Yeah, this is a quite open question. Yeah, evaluate and make a reasoned recommendation. Yeah, the recommendation can now go towards the 3rd line of defense, can also go toward the 5 lines of assurance model. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean because there are 5 lines, it's better. Yeah, maybe the 5 lines is over administration. Yeah, so important is here that it is reasoned. You justify, which model you would recommend, and then of course the more feasible the justification is. For that you get the points. Yeah, so there is no right or wrong in the answer itself. Yeah. Yeah, you would like to approach the question already at high level with the dashboard, or shall I go first into the paper? Yeah, which approach you prefer most? No preference? Yeah, then I make my life easy. Yeah, and just go through the more concise version. Yeah. So here you see at the beginning you will always have some exam tips. Yeah, you need to have at least two advantages and disadvantages. Yeah, you state them clearly, but not bury them in a paragraph. Yeah, you structure your answer so that the examiner immediately finds out, advantage one, advantage two, disadvantage one, disadvantage two. Big bullet point, short explanation what the advantage, disadvantage is about. Yeah, then you address here this enhanced role of the governing body, yeah, which is here preferred by the internal international internal auditor version. That's a bit an advanced version, for you to understand compared to the third line, because the third line it's also flexible. You can arrange it differently. What is the first? The first line is always given with the operational management. Yeah, the second line you can here already combine. Yeah, and the third line it's also a discussion whether it is the internal audit, or if you have here risk and audit here combined, then you have another third line which is already then a committee. Instead of the operative internal audit. For 5 lines. Here, the fourth line is usually recommended to be the external auditor. And then the fifth line would be the regulator, for example. But you can also do here, the fourth line, I would say the external auditor makes absolutely sense. And you can also arrange it that, for example, the supervisory board or the shareholder meeting, special shareholder meeting, is here governing the fifth line, because ultimately they are the one ultimately deciding, and they need to have here the oversight. You can arrange this. Here you have for sure some flexibility. Your recommendation must be reasoned, that we already mentioned so far, and the CEO dismissal of audit findings is your hook. That's where you start from. Because it is not a coincidence that we have a new CEO, because the old CEO has to leave his or her post, because of the audit findings, and they were severe. And connect also here the digit health integration gaps specifically to the weaknesses in assurance. And this, the DigiHealth has no register at all. That's already a first line failure. If you have a failure in the first line, then what can the second line do? Nothing. They can only say, hey, please back to the start. First to integrate and you cover up this failure, or you close this gap, and then we can discuss about improvements. So therefore here, 3 lines mapping. First line, operational management. They own and manage the risk. These are the so-called risk owner, and the risk owner shall be always at the lowest possible level, because then they are really dealing with the risk on daily basis. And then the second line is already the risk function itself. So you have to implement the risk management department, with roles, with a chief risk officer, with some risk managers and analysts and so on, so that you have here also a team which then have already the first oversight, and they monitor the first line. And then, of course, at the third line, you have the independent assurance here to the board and to the audit and risk committee, for example, and that is carried out by an internal audit. But the internal audit must really be independent. You must have a chief internal auditor, which is at the same level of the other board of directors. An internal auditor cannot be subordinated, for example, to the CEO directly or to the CFO directly. Often in practice, you see this subordination. If this is the case, it's a no-go. It's a no-go in terms of best practice. So therefore, internal audit shall be independent. Also, in the internal organizational org chart. That's here. So what is the advantage of the 3 lines model for Novatec? Clarity in roles. So no, it's no ambiguous framework. So it's very clear in this complex multi-divisional organization. Often in the multi-divisional organizations, you have a kind of blur accountabilities. It's not always that clear. Maybe you operate even with a matrix organization, then it becomes not clear. So therefore, if you use the 3 lines of defense, that brings more clarity into the roles. Regulatory recognition, of course, the 3 lines defense model is recognized by several corporate governance codes. It is familiar to the prudential authority and also to the financial authority. It is scalable. Of course, you can implement such a 3 lines model step by step. Of course, you start with one department, you roll it out, and then it becomes more and more comprising here the whole enterprise. And you start, of course, with the most spending departments, where the most serious deficiencies are. What might be a disadvantage? If you think logically about, then nothing comes without nothing positive. Has also each positive has also some drawbacks. That's what I want to say. It's about a disadvantage might be siloed thinking. Because if the roles are very differentiated, then usually it leads that each is just looking into the matter, into their concern. A sales manager is just looking into sales. It is not caring about what might be the consequences to the production department. And therefore, they become very siloed in a way. And if you organize it in that way, then you have here even information fragmentation. And especially when you look into Novatec's divisional risks, you find this siloed thinking, and that has to be you need to break it up. Board as a passive recipient. If the board is not really involved, that they are just give me the report, I will look into, and then they have 100 other things to do, then it has not that priority. So therefore, there must be a clear escalation path. And if you have a 4th and a 5th defense line, then the board cannot be so passive. And misses here external assurance. It is all when you think about these 3 lines of the defense model. It is just composed of internal players. There is no external players which might have here an over-the-edge look into the matter. And that is important. And that is, for example, here a major argument here to implement, for example, a 5 lines model. Yeah, what are the differences that you see here also? Yeah, board has direct relationship with all three lines. Lines, not lines of defense. Yeah, it is a lines model. Yeah, three. The other is a defense model, whereas the IIA, yeah, is a lines model. Yeah, it's always about, it removes here defensive reactive connotation. Yeah, the lines of defense is very reactive. It's defensive. Yeah, when something is happening, then they react. The IIA three lines model. Yeah, you see here, model, defense model or model. One word makes the difference. They are more proactive. They interpret here risk management really as value creation. It's always uh, uh, forward looking. Yeah. And here even to be preventive instead of, yeah, or proactive instead of reactive. Yeah. Also, it's a broader second line definition. Yeah, the second line is here legal, compliance, finance, IT, HR, not just narrowed down to risk department. Yeah, so therefore here usually the second line would be composed of several chief officers steering here this risk and compliance topics. Yeah, and alignment with objectives. Of course, the three lines explicitly are aligned with the governing body's objectives. Yeah, so therefore they are aligned with an external oversight already. Yeah. So then let us look here into the 5 lines. 5 lines coverage here for Novatec. Yeah, when you think about, in the first line, when it comes to operational management, the coverage, I would say in current status of Novatec is roughly 30%. They should target at least 80%. Second line is even worse because they don't have here this risk management and internal audit risk management department in place. Yeah, so they lack, I would say, just 10%. Yeah, because out of the gut feeling, some risk is evaluated. Yeah, but no instrumentalization. In terms of third line, it's they are quite established so far. They have here, let me say, a completion coverage ratio of roughly 55% or so. Yeah, and here they should also aim to over 80% to be best practice. Yeah, and fourth line. Current external audit is given. We have an external auditor. It's just a question how deeply they are really looking into this auditing of risk and compliance. Because the external auditor, in terms of annual statutory audit, has no obligation to disclose here any deficiencies regarding to risk management and so forth. Because their main objective is to find out whether the financial statements are drawn up with the under the principle of giving a true and fair view, and without any material misstatements. And that's a different topic. That has nothing directly to do with risk management evaluation and effectiveness or efficiency of risk management or compliance. So therefore, you can use, of course, the external auditor, but they would have a separate mandate to do that. Fifth line, these are the regulatory bodies, and of course, in a certain way, they must be compliant with. So the regulatory bodies are already on board. It's just that you have here to expressively mention it. So, what would be the recommendation? The wrap up or the recap or the conclusion. The 3 lines, the IIA 3 lines model, that would be suggested here as a primary internal framework. and there should be also a formal recognition for the 4th and 5th line, so that it is mentioned in the framework. Yeah, we have the 4th line, we have the 5th line. Yeah, because they are not embedded in the organizational chart so far. Yeah, and therefore you have to embed it here in your framework, that it is addressed. Yeah, this is the only model that directly addresses here the governance, board governance gaps. Yeah, but it can be incrementally built. Yeah, also Rome is not built in one day, and therefore also here Novatec can take some time here really to achieve best practice. Yeah, that's so far here this question. Yeah, then we can already move on to question 4. So before we look into the exam tips and into suggested solutions, let us look into the question. Yeah, usually I would ask even that a student is reading and interpreting the question, and then we start together to find out what shall all be mentioned here. Yeah, but if the audience is a bit passive, yeah, then I cannot do this. In UK, it's always like this, yeah, that we really start. Yeah, one student reads the question, yeah, and then we look into, and everyone is participating and say, can we do this? Is it feasible to mention here this? What do you think if I give this and that answer? Yeah? And then we have this discussion, yeah, already very deeply dealing with the suggested answer, and then later on, yeah, we present then what is the suggested question, and then each student can already align. This I might have forgotten to mention in my answer. Yeah, so they have then automatically an implicit feedback. Yeah, where they stand in their knowledge and where they stand with their confidence in answering questions in exam. Yeah, that's only possible if active participation of students is there. Yeah, if the students are just passively listening, yeah, then they listen to whatever I say. Yeah, but there is no major interaction. Yeah, and that's a bit. It's a bit a pity. Yeah. Because you deprive yourself of the opportunity really to raise your concerns and bring in your points as well. Yeah. So, yeah, question 4. Here we have these technology risks. This is mainly due to the digital health branch, and here it's about cybersecurity. Yeah, prepare a paper evaluating the cybersecurity and technological risks facing Novatec and how these should be governed and managed. Your paper should include an assessment of at least 4 specific cybersecurity and technology risks. Then an evaluation of key requirements under the Data Protection Act. In Malaysia, we have also the Data Protection Act so far. At least 3 examples of controls, which should be implemented to manage the cybersecurity and data privacy risk, and also the board's role in overseeing the technology and cyber risk governance, including how the board should ensure here it has adequate knowledge and oversight capability. Yeah. Yesterday I had a discussion with a student, and we were also discussing here about the board composition, in terms of cyber risks. Yeah, and then I was told that in only a few companies, general manufacturing companies, you will find a board member who is very IT affine, so that they are really very trained, very experienced here to this cyber risk. That cyber risk is still quite emergent. Yeah, they don't have a proper understanding. How does this work with hacking? Which technology is behind? What do I need to do here to close such loops? And on board level, we don't find that many directors really specialized in this field, because it's always put to the operations. They should know, an IT guy or lady, they should deal with that. But on the highest level, hardly. And it's here a lot of what I would say, and what is a bit of a deficiency, is that they also not only delegate the task to lower levels, but also the responsibility, and that's here a deficiency, because in the board, as a board, you can never totally delegate the responsibility. The responsibility always remain with the board, and therefore you need also at the board really versed people. They know that they know exactly about the topic. Let us look now into the question, so into the answering dashboard. Here, when it comes to identifying the risks, DG Health technological risk, what can you do? You can immediately think about the heat map. You learned about the heat map, or you will learn about the heat map, and the heat map gives you the likelihood and the severance of a risk. And then you can make here a matrix where you say what is the likelihood of a risk, of a particular risk, and what is the severance, and then you color it. Therefore, we have heat map, because ultimately the hottest area is the red area. It's already boiling, because here, of course, we have a critical impact, and the severity, the likelihood is high, the severity is high. So you have to deal with that, and that's exactly here the patient data breach. Security gaps since 2022. So nobody really dealt with that. And you see the lowest is the operational IT risks. Routine system faults. Random somewhere attack. Cyber attack on an AI platform. AI bias, diagnostic error. That might already be a medium risk. Third-party cloud risk. If most companies also here in Malaysia, they don't operate their own servers. They use here software as a service, and they have outsourced that. And then they cannot even closely control what's going on at the third-party cloud. Whatever in the cloud is, that's sometimes a huge mystery. You know it? The cloud is one mystery. We don't know where it's stored. We don't know whether it's right or wrong. So therefore, big companies, of course, they tend here to have the server landscape in-house, and they operate their own server structure where they store all the data, because then they are the one really in having the ownership of the data. Nobody else can here interfere. Just imagine if you have all your data outsourced. Then let me say here the cloud, or the cloud provider. They have full transparency what's going on in your company. And just imagine if they sell such an information to your competitor, then you are really in deep trouble. So therefore, big companies never outsource such things. If they have particular data, for example, a university, most university here, they outsource all the data. And also the systems which they operate. That's just a service, software as a service. Really outstanding universities, for example, they like Harvard, like Stanford, and so on. They have their own system, and that's closed. There cannot happen that much. Because they are even programming their IT landscape, their software according to their needs, and they are very advanced, which often standardized softwares don't even offer, because it's highly tailored. What are the the requirements under the data protection. Yeah, of course, you have to fulfill here the data protection principles. Yeah, special category data. So as a health data is one of the highest protection level. Legal basis here. There is a special article under the regulation here, which is dedicated to healthcare, healthcare data. Also in Malaysia, we have this. And privacy by design, that's here, how you embed an AI platform, and how you make it sure that this is working. Then security of processing, of course, if you deal with a lot of data, then you have to process it in a way, so you need to have here appropriate technical and organizational measures in place. Then, for example, you cannot wait years until a breach is disclosed. Within 72 hours, you must be aware that there is a personal data breach happening. Or happened, that you immediately react. It cannot be, but sometimes, data protection is not always followed that strictly, and then it happens what we don't like, that our data is here and there appearing, and suddenly people are approaching us with whom you have never had any contact. And that's exactly while some companies, they are not ethical. They grab your information and they sell your information. They make even money out of your information. And just think about what does this mean. Health is very sensitive. Do you want that they know whether you have this or this, that sickness or illness or whatsoever? No, that's highly sensitive. That's something private. In Europe, even the more. In Europe, for example, an employer is not allowed to ask, for example, a female applicant during an interview, are you pregnant or not? When are you delivering the baby? This is not of the concern of the employer. I know here they do it, because they say, if someone is pregnant, then they hardly start working, and then they are already on maternity leave, and then I have to replace them. Over there, it's about protection of the employees. So therefore, such private questions you are not allowed to ask. Also, that you have to come up with a detailed health report. Just imagine, if you have a sickness, and then just because you are overqualified and totally qualified, but just because, let me say, you have a sickness like diabetes, and there is a likelihood that you may collapse, because your sugar level is falling down, they don't take you. That's discrimination. And in some jurisdiction, this is absolutely forbidden. Because it's about always to protect the weakest and not to enforce even the more powerful to most powerful. That's a different approach here. That's therefore data protection is very, very sensitive. And that starts already with things like that. What are recommended controls? Because the question also addresses here, you should recommend some controls which shall be implemented. Here, of course, it's about that the security review and penetration tests. That's here a kind of technical tests where you test the API, the internet protocol, the access protocol accordingly, and find out here critical vulnerabilities. And what is here the consequences. Then it's also about here data protection, when it comes to the platform, how that you have a detailed description, how processing, how you assess here identification, identity risks, and so on. Control 3 is about data governance framework. You need to have an coherent framework, which classifies here your data policy accordingly. Yeah, retention schedules. Yeah, for example, in Europe, it's also the case. Yeah, you must even give approval that they store your data, and within maximum 3 years, yeah, if there is no further interaction ongoing, they have to remove all your data. And even upon request, yeah, if the next day you ask them, please delete all my data, then they have to do. Yeah, of course, if you are now a patient at the hospital, you won't do this because then they don't have a track record. But for example, if you are an applicant, yeah, and you send them all your certificates, your CV, and whatsoever, and they don't take you, then you can request the next day, please remove it because it has no relevance for you anymore. Yeah, you have to give consent what will happen to your data. Yeah. So then, of course, incidents response plan, for example, would be here another control which you have here to implement, that there is an escalation pathway. Yeah, immediately when something is happening, it goes from the chief information and safety officer directly to the CEO, CFO, and directly then discussed in the board, or is even pre-approved how to deal with such scenarios in case there are any incident. Yeah, that is covering now the entire part A. Yeah, you see here, maybe some one or the other question is not what you like. Yeah, then you can select which to answer. 3 out of 4 you have to answer. Yeah. And then let us look into section B. Section B is independent of the case study. Yeah, there you have 2 questions and 1 you have to answer. Yeah, and that can cover whatsoever from the syllabus. Yeah, it can be a small case study. It can be just entirely a theoretical question. Yeah, therefore, yeah, it's a bit the gambling. Yeah, what is here coming up. Yeah, for the 75 marks, yeah, of case study, yeah, I even offer here the students, yeah, the following approach. That whenever the pre-released case study is available, yeah, then we define here with our team up to 15 questions covering the entire syllabus, yeah, and provide then also suggested solution. So you will get the Q&A script as well as part of preparation for the exam. But that's an extra service, which is of course very, very inclusive so far. Some students, they really like it a lot because that is ultimately the best practice or the best preparation for the exam you can have. Yeah, because you have the case study, you know the background, you know the cases or whatsoever is in, and then you get also some questions which might then later on also even ask in exam, yeah, with a similar or wording, content-wise, yeah. Okay, this I should address here. And then you can already prepare, in case they ask about the 3 lines and 5 lines models, yeah, then of course I can answer this. Yeah. And then just the names are to be substituted. Yeah? Instead of, in this case, here Digi, then the name is different or the sector is different, but the topic, the content itself is similar. The content, 3 lines defense is always a 3 lines defense, whether it is company A or company B. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, then let us move into part B, question 5. So question 5, let us look here into the question itself. Yeah, here you have a small company, some words here to a company, and then it's about here organizational culture and risk culture question. Here, Eldenon Financial Services, mid-sized UK listed insurance and wealth management group, employing 3,200 staff across UK headquarters in Edinburgh. And offices in Dublin, Hong Kong, and Toronto. You see, it's not coincidentally that we have Dublin, Hong Kong, and Toronto. Because the CGI syllabus also applies, to Dublin, which is Ireland, to Hong Kong, and to Canada. So therefore, you see, the case studies or the mock exam is here designed, that it is applicable not only in Malaysia, it is also here applicable, in other jurisdictions as well. So they have here commissioned an independent review of the company's risk culture following a number of near-miss incidents. What is a near-miss incident? Obviously there were a high uncertainty, a high risk, but an event was not happening, but it was close that something negative something negative happened to them, and that's the so-called near-miss incidents. And that also claims here needs here attention, because near misses says a lot, where you should improve. So they found out, for instance, that confirmation bias affecting investment decisions. They noted that risk management were perceived by many staff as a compliance burden rather than a value-adding activity. If it is a compliance burden, then we have a tick in the box mentality. We do things just for the sake of things. We make here a flag and there a flag and here a point and there a point, but we don't really do it properly. If you do a tick in the box approach, please let it be, because that has no value at all. Risk management shall be value added. If you do it as just as a compliance burden, forget about it, because that is really not giving any positive effect to the company. And so you have also to think about how you set up your risk management, how you administer your risk management. It shall not represent an additional burden to the staff. It shall be really embedded. So just by the way, okay, we do here this and that as well. But it shall not be a burden. If it is considered as a burden, then of course the staff, they do it half-heartedly, and then the result is suboptimal. So what is required as a governance consultant engaged here by the board? Prepare a paper. Here you are put into the shoes of an external consultant. It's a different approach than as if you are the company secretary. So that can also be an exam. Not necessarily you should always act as the conscious of the company as the company secretary. Sometimes they say you are an external auditor. Sometimes you are even a board member and so on. And there is, let me say, the issue with related parties transaction, and you are part of it. You are part even of the problem. That's different. So the case studies or the questions, they can come up really as a surprise. So here, you prepare a paper assessing the organizational culture, the risk culture. You give an explanation of the relationship between the organizational culture and the risk culture. Because organizational culture is shaping, of course, also the risk culture, including the factors. At least 3 methods could be measured. And how, which methods you can use here to measure and assess the risk culture, and a brief evaluation of strengths and limitations of each. And then 2 examples drawn from Elderton's circumstances of how a poor risk culture has manifested itself and the potential consequences for the organization. That's part A, 15 marks. Yeah, for 15 marks, how many time you can allocate? Yeah, 15 times 1.8, that is roughly 27, 27 minutes. Yeah, you can spend here for this this part A question. Yeah, so each question, yeah, each 25 marks account for 40 minutes. Yeah, that you have here also time-wise in a benchmark. Yeah, how much time you should spend. Yeah, if you struggle with a question, yeah, then don't struggle too long. Yeah, don't read it repeatedly if you don't get the point immediately and you have immediately some ideas how to answer. Then just move on to the next question, so that at least as much as possible you can answer. Yeah, and if there is some time left, then you can go back to a question where you struggle. Yeah, because sometimes the students struggle with 2 or 3 questions. Yeah, if you struggle with 3 questions, yeah, then you have already a problem. Yeah, because you need to answer 4. Yeah, and time, really, a lot of students after the exam, they were just astonished how fast the time was over. Yeah, they always said, no, I had hardly time to write down all what I wanted to write down. So therefore, it's important to have a structure when you answer. Yeah. Here too, I also prepared a detailed guideline for exam, how to structure the answers. Yeah, all really a kind of briefing exam tips. Yeah, that you can openly access. Yeah, it's really available over our Facebook site. Yeah, that you have here also this link. Yeah, you can download, you can read through. It's really very meticulous in detail what you can do, which type of answering scheme you should use, what are the do's, what are the don'ts, and so on. Yeah. Yeah, question B is about perception, risk perception, and cognitive bias in risk management decisions. Yeah, here an explanation how subjectivity and human psychology can distort risk management and decision making. At least 3 common risk perceptions and heuristics, with an example of each would how each would affect here risk decisions at Elderton. At least 2. Yeah, at least 2 cognitive biases explaining how each could negatively affect the risk management process. Yeah, that's here for 40 marks. Yeah, I know usually I should spend 40 minutes exactly discussing here the question, but sometimes, yeah, of course, it's yeah, a bit tricky because we do 6 questions. Yeah, so I have to speed up. Yeah. But let me say, you can also use our service. Yeah, that for example, you take the mock exam. Yeah, you spend, let me say, if there is a rainy Sunday or Saturday afternoon, yes, you sit down, you try to answer on your own. You send us your answer script. We go through and give you feedback, inclusively estimated marks which you get. What would you get for your answer? And that yeah, and then also feedback what is missing in your answer and what should be improved and how. Yeah, that's the best feedback you can get, because it is very personalized. Yeah, it's up to you to use this service. Yeah, I can only offer. Yeah, of course, you must understand, I'm prepared to give a lot for free, but I cannot give everything for free. Yeah, because it's very time consuming really to do this work. Yeah, it's not that I just click and that's done. Yeah, you see also how meticulous these documents are prepared. Yeah, that's a lot of work. It's not just done overnight, and therefore you are also not prepared to work for free. So please understand that at least some student-friendly fees I would ask, yeah, if you are here interested in further practice. Yeah. Already with this you get a lot. Yeah, you get even much more than often compared to other tuition providers. Yeah, you can rate it then, let me say, on your own so far. Yeah, that's then up to you. But some feedback from your side would be, of course, highly appreciated. Yeah, let us look now in the question into the answer. So Risk culture and bias. Yeah, here when it comes to risk culture, then the factors are asked. Yeah, which factors you should here mention? Of course, it's the tone at the top. Yeah, the single most powerful driver is always what is the seniors leader visible behavior. Whether they are championing the transparency, yeah, or they conceal, yeah, whether they are open-minded or very close-minded. That is shaping the whole culture, the whole organizational culture, and ultimately the risk culture. Yeah? So therefore, they set the cultural norms. Yeah, and it's not a coincidence. Yeah, that let me say, the really good leadership, they are really able to make or break a company. Why under one leadership the company is not thriving, while under another company it is prospering? Yeah, that has to do with the right tone at the top. And here, the top is the role model. How they want to be, that the subordinates shall behave, they themselves shall also behave. Yeah, it's not about here that a huge hierarchy must be implemented and control, and suppression and whatsoever. It's really about also empowerment. Yeah, it's about here team player. Also, a leader, a top manager can be a team player. Huh? And that's different to leadership styles which are applicable in companies. Yeah, then the incentive structure. Of course, risk culture is highly here shaped by the incentive structure. Yeah, if the bonus reward short-term performance, yeah, without any risk adjustment, yeah, then you need not to be surprised that the company is just reaching a certain level and never ever being able to become really a powerful player. Powerful player, they always do long-term performance orientation, and they do empire building versus short-term profit maximization. That's here this factor. Then communication and transparency. Yeah, it's also about incident management and learning. Yeah, that's the how can I express it? The error culture or mistake culture. Yeah, a mistake or an error, that shall be the best possibility to learn, and that shall not be punished. There shall be a positive culture. Yeah, errors as a learning opportunity, and not negative errors equals to punishment. Yeah, you see, it's a different approach. Yeah. HR and talent management. Yeah, of course, here it's necessary. Yeah, only with the right culture you attract the right people. Yeah, and regulatory environment. Yeah, that's here. That of course you are embedded here to the relevant environment. Yeah, let us now look into various methods how you can evaluate, how you can measure risk culture. Because risk culture to measure, it's not possible to do it in a quantitative method. You do it mostly qualitative. And this qualitative information which you gather, then you transfer it into a quantitative benchmark, in terms that you have a ranking or whatsoever. So how you can get here information? You do a survey. This is anonymous feedback. By, for example, by the staff. They measure the risk attitudes. They report here. They perceive here leadership behaviors across a division. Here you must also be honest. You must allow them to come forward with their opinion, and not that you then punish because they say out loud something. Then it doesn't make sense. Then this measurement doesn't work. What is the limitation? Social desirability bias. Yeah, stated here states the attitudes of not behaviors, lagging indicators, response quality depends here on the survey design. Yeah, whenever you design a survey, you must think about what you ask, what you expect the return would be. So it makes a difference how you phrase a question in a survey. Yeah. Although the content is one and the same, but the outcome can be totally different. So therefore, it must be very reflected in the design. Then incident data. Yeah, whenever an incident happens, you report about here near miss data, whistleblowing, regulatory complaints. Yeah, be transparent also here. Whatever happened or whatever nearly happened, disclose it. Yeah, because also this is valuable information to improve. It's all about improvement. It's not about, we have to hide. We have to put something under the carpet. Luckily it didn't happen, but we were already nearly, that it's nearly happening. And let us just don't talk about we cover up. No, that's the wrong way. Limitation, of course, here distorted also by the cultural issue. If you cover up, that creates even further artificially low near miss rates. But they are not correct. You lie to yourself, and that's not the right way. Then method, behavioral observation, structural interviews with managers, direct observation of board and committee meetings and decision-making processes, reveals informal rules of the game. Often the rule of the game here in Malaysia is don't speak out, don't speak out, don't. Just be quiet. It's a bit, maybe it makes the life easier, but ultimately it limits progression. So, because it's never ever, if you raise a concern, it's never ever personally. It's always about the effect. It's about the situation. It has nothing to do with the person itself. But here, if you say this, then always a person might be affected directly and interprets it as an aggressive affront to them. But it's not about that. It's about, we have this fact. This fact is not okay. We should do something about it. If you don't talk about it, how shall it be improved? It cannot. And therefore, a lot of companies, they are stuck wherever they are. So, availability heuristic, that's judging probability. Of course, here it's about, when we look into an example, after a high profile fraud case in the media, claims here managers overestimate fraud frequency. Applying disproportionate scrutiny to legitimate claims, while missing here fraud patterns. It's also about that you do here, a sorrowful investigation. What's the fact? Anchoring the heuristic. That means over-reliance on first information encountered. If you just rely on the first information, then it might be insufficient. So therefore, you must also look into the complete picture. And not just from one side. Every let me say dispute or whatsoever, or every near miss incident, it has always two sides. It's not that there is one culprit or one this and the other. It needs to be looked into from the comprehensive perspective. So here, for example, the investment committee anchors to analyst initial 500 million valuation, because it's mentioned here with the valuation. Subsequent due diligence reveals concerns justifying just 350 million, but final approval anchors too close to 500, although insufficient downward adjustment. So therefore there must be a hidden agenda behind this. Why? If there is an initial valuation of 500, but the effective due diligence only reveals 350, that's 150 difference. That's a major difference. There must be a second agenda, why they then still approve the higher value. And that's already, let me say, it has some taste, I would say. Yeah. So representative heuristic, here it's about the claims handlers assess fraud risk by comparing to their mental template, typical fraud, complex, sophisticated financial crimes that don't fit to the template, because they define what might be here. Assessing the probability by how closely something resembles a prototypical case. That means, is there a pattern? Is this often happening? For example, negligence. Why do we have in this matter negligence, and why this might then here have consequences? Confirmation basis, another. Here, portfolio managers selectively seek data confirming investment thesis. Overconfidence and groupthink. There is a group pressure. Overestimating. On one hand, there is the CEO, for example. He is very self-confident, very overconfident. Only their judgment counts. That's also not the right way. And on the other hand, you have group thinking. It's not allowed that there is any deviation in the opinion. So everybody must be always in the same opinion, like the lemmings. They are all swimming in the same direction. And ultimately, if they swim to a jump to a cliff, then they all jump down. Because nobody is thinking differently and nobody sees it differently. But you need to have also this reflecting different thinking. Both ways are not the best one. So you must find here a good balance between overconfidence and good groupthink. That's here what you might address when it comes here to biasness. So then finally, we have another 15 minutes left. Precisely some time which we can spend finally on the question 6, Greenfield. Greenfield logistics. Let us first look into the question that we have some understanding what this is about. We have a privately owned logistic company and supply chain management company. It's in this case also a UK company. Greenfield operations, they have a severe disruption in early 2024, caused by a ransomware attack in its warehouse, and they have here a 6-day outage, and Greenfield was unable to fulfill client orders, incurring significant financial penalties, contractual service level agreements, because they had to fulfill some agreements they could not do because interruption in their delivery. So incurred here. Several key clients have since indicated that they are reviewing their supplier relationship. So they are threatening already to say goodbye and say, okay, you are not able here to serve us properly. We will look for another supplier. So very serious topic, because ultimately it will lead to a downturn in revenue, downturn in profitability, and so on. And it can even go so far till at the brink of bankruptcy. So therefore, what is here addressed? And you see it, the board has engaged you as an independent risk and governance consultant, in this case, to advise the development of a business continuity management framework. So it's about BCM, business continuity management. Let us look into the question. Prepare a report for the board of Greenfield addressing the business continuity management and operational resilience. Your report should include, that's already then some extra points, which for sure in exam you would not get so far, because you have to find out an assessment of the purpose and key components of business continuity management framework, including the main stages of business continuity management life cycle as defined by ISO. Yeah, this S for sure in the syllabus you don't find this paragraph, but I relate it here that you see how comprehensive ISO is. ISO has standards for a lot of topics. They even coined business continuity management. Yeah, it's not that it's an artificial word or what. They defined it insofar as they were the first here norming best practice in business continuity management. Yeah, an evaluation of relationships between the business continuity management and operational resilience, distinguishing between two concepts and explaining how a focus on operational resilience goes beyond the traditional PCM. At least 4 specific operational risks facing Greenfield, in addition to the ransomware incident already experienced, together with appropriate risk treatment strategies for each. The key steps here Greenfield should take to develop here an embedded framework, including the board's role in providing oversight, the importance of testing and exercising the framework. Also, an assessment of why compliance with client contractual requirements and relevant industry standards is important to Greenfield. Include at least 4 consequences of failure to maintain operational resilience from a client and regulatory perspective. This question, frankly spoken, is here mentioning, or is here covering the total chapter topic number 11, which is about compliance management and also about control the chapter 12 with risk control strategies. So it's very deep here addressing here this chapter in the question. So that's so far here the question paper. And let us look here into the answer. Here I'll just look once again here in the detailed paper. So where is it? That's already at the end. So give me a second. Here question 4. Sorry. Oh, where is it? Question 4. Sorry, question 5 that we have already. So, and that's question 6. No. Here at the end, sorry. Purpose and key components of a PCM framework. ISO 22301. You need not to know that the number, but just for the sake of completeness, it's here mentioned. Business continuity management is a holistic process of developing and implementing. It's not just about planning, developing, it's also about implementing and executing here plans to prevent and manage disruption of business operations, ensuring that critical functions are always available. And if there is a shutdown or a downturn, that you can rapidly restore here the incidents so far. This ISO standard is an international standard for business continuity management, and it is a process-based framework. It is exactly how you organize it. So what are the life cycle stages? Because it is mentioned, that's exactly life cycle stages is here a synonym for process. Policy and program management, understanding the organization, business impact analysis. That's often the starting point. And then you determine what's the strategy, developing the strategy to achieve the required recovery capabilities, alternative processing sites, backup IT system, supply chain redundancy, double source, not single sourcing, double sourcing strategy, workforce resilience. Developing then the PCM response. That's about also crisis management plans, IT disaster recovery plans, communication plans. And such plans, they shall be trained in case it happens that the steps to be carried out, yeah, to recover, that they are almost automatically executed. Yeah, and they are executed quite fast, that the normal status quo of operation can be achieved. Yeah, let me say within yeah, an hour, for example. IT, just imagine if the total IT landscape is down, in a company with 1,000 employees, and then 400 out of these, they are working with the computer, and suddenly the whole computer network is down. Yeah, that cannot be down then for a day. That's too long. Yeah, within an hour, it must run again, must back online again. Yeah. And that you define here in such disaster recovery plans, for example. Exercising, maintaining, reviewing. Yeah, of course, that's always, there is never ever any optimal point or status achieved. It's always continuous improvement. Yeah, embedding BCM also in the organizational culture. Yeah, that staff needs to be trained. They need to have the awareness. Integrate BCM also into change management. You know, change management is often quite tricky, because when people hear change, then they are already resistant. Yeah, and you have to overcome the resistance that even change can happen. Yeah. Without this breaking of resistance and bringing them on board, yeah, with commitment, yeah, a change would not happen. Yeah, what is here the second point? Yeah, you were also asked here to contrast here the BCM versus operational resilience. What is the distinction? Yeah, what are parallels and so on? Yeah, BCM is primary reactive and event focused. If asked, then if we are disrupted, how we do recover. Operational resilience is a broader concept that asks, how do we ensure that we continue to deliver important services to clients in all circumstances? So therefore, operational resilience is much broader, and there is not a standard framework available. There is no ISO standard regulating this, because that's highly tailored. It encompasses here the BCM accordingly, but it extends here beyond and addresses here the ability of the company to absorb, to adapt, to transform here in response to any disruption. We have here the BRA and the FCA and the Bank of England operational resilience policy statement that might here be helpful. And for Greenfield, for this company, of course, the random SAM attack exposed not only the BCM deficiency, because no disaster recovery plan, but also a deeper operational resilience failure. The organization itself, they lack on the capability to adapt its operations. They revert back to manual processes. Just imagine if you do then all manually. That is not the solution. And 6 days outage. Obviously, it can happen. That's a bit exaggerated example here, but to illustrate the severance of this topic. Therefore, it's like this. So, 4 specific operational risks. Risk 1 is the key supplier single source dependency. It's high likelihood and the high impact. You see, it's here mentioned accordingly. Therefore, what is the strategy or the way out? Double source sourcing, so that you have always two suppliers for one and the same component, so that you can substitute one supplier by the other, but you have always to place orders with both suppliers. If you just place, let me say, your order with one supplier, and then in the event that this one fails, then you switch to the second one, that doesn't work. So therefore, you must maintain here good relationship with 2 suppliers instead of just one. Yeah, extreme weather, climate events disrupting distribution networks. Yeah, that might be a medium likelihood, high impact. Yeah, just imagine if you're a company operating, let me say, in Klang Valley near the coastal side. Yeah, and there are severe rainfalls, and the drainage system is not the best. Very fast, it can happen that your premises is underwater. Yeah, so that's is a specific operational risk. You must be prepared. What are you doing? Yeah, you cannot just easily relocate to another spot or to another location. That's not possible. Yeah, so you have to live with it. You have to mitigate this risk in a way best possible. Yeah. Labor shortages, yeah, industrial action, high, medium, yeah, industrial action, high to medium, so medium to high likelihood and high impact. Yeah, the logistics sector is highly dependent here on drivers, and warehouse operators. Yeah, if you don't have here the network, yeah, and the infrastructure and the trucks available 24/7, yeah, you cannot deliver. Yeah, logistic is about transportation. Yeah, if the means of transports are not available, yeah, then you have an issue. Yeah, then finally, risk 4 is about client contractual non-performance, volume concentration risk. Yeah, you might have some orders ongoing with major customers, and they place high volumes, and you are highly dependent on, and you don't perform. Yeah, that's the worst case of what can happen to you. Yeah, and therefore you have here, medium likelihood, because I would say in a way. Yeah, it can happen, but it is not that it is every day. Yeah? But if it it is happening, then it has a high impact. Yeah, that's here how you can do such a matrix. Key steps to develop here an an embedded BCM framework. Step 1, board approval. Step 2, conduct a business analysis. Step 3, conduct business continuity plans, develop and document, and then conduct regular exercises, integrate BCM into change management, and report also to the board, yeah, what's going on. And the board role, what is the board role? Because that was also here asked in the question. They have to approve the policy. They receive annual reports. They ensure here adequate resources. Yeah, because also this BCM needs resources. So what would be the consequences of failing to maintain operational resilience? Yeah, from the client and from the regulatory perspective. Consequence A, contractual penalties and revenue loss. Yeah, if you cannot fulfill the contractual obligations towards your customer, yeah, then the customer charge you with a penalty. It's not the penalty by an authority; it's the penalty for late delivery. Yeah, and frankly spoken, in international trade, you have a lot of such clauses addressing here on-time quality, in-time delivery, and so on. Yeah, and also on cost. Yeah. Yeah, then consequence 2 is about reputational damage and loss of new business. Yeah, if you already struggle with the present business, yeah, because you cannot execute all the orders, you are in delay. Yeah, then this has a negative effect to your reputation, and it's a hurdle. It's even a bigger hurdle than to acquire new businesses. Yeah, new business. Yeah, consequence 3, it's about the regulatory non-compliance, especially here when it comes to pharmaceutical and food industry, because it is mentioned here, somewhere, okay. Yeah, that here the greenfield, here we are. Yeah, failure to maintain here operational continuity. For example, yeah, if they are involved in the distribution of goods, yeah, as a logistic company, for example, yeah, then of course they have even here to compensate. the client accordingly. Yeah, this could trigger here a loss of a lot of logistic contracts and so on. Finally, we have then the increased insurance premiums and the reduced coverage. Yeah, if such a major cyber incident happens, then your IT insurance premium will go up. And they will even then say, okay, we must also adapt here in terms of coverage. Yeah, because if you have such a severe thing. Of course, the insurance company upfront in the first time, at the first time, they will compensate you, but they will also adapt adapt here the premiums accordingly, and that has then also negative financial consequences for the company itself. Yeah, then you see here the report. Yeah, what is the subject? Introduction. Yeah, you discuss the topic. And finally, you give here also a consequence, a final statement. Yeah, from my perspective here, this was now a quite detailed here insight of this first mock exam. Yeah, we have several of them right now. Yeah, we are just offering 5 of them, but of course we are continuously also working on our improvement of the quality and enrichment, enlargement of the service. Yeah, so therefore you can be sure that more mock exams in this kind, with this quality, will be available for students, for study purposes. It's not that I say, this is one-to-one what is coming up in exam, because nobody knows. I'm not the one compiling the exam questions. It's just that we work here with some probability what is most likely to come up, because we have also some track record what was asked in the history in historical in historical time, dating back from before COVID till now, some years. And therefore, you can identify here also a pattern what is most likely to come up as a question, or where they put some more emphasis this time or the next time. That's what we can also help the students with. In other topics, we do even a probability matrix. Because if you have a precise, for example, theoretical questions, or calculative questions, as in interpreting financial and accounting information, then you can even say, how often this and that question is addressed, and how likely is it that it comes up in next exam. That's also a kind of risk evaluation, if you want so, to evaluate what is the likelihood and what is then the severance of a question. This brings me then to the end. Do you have any questions? Did you enjoy the boot camp? Okay, thank you so much. At least 1 or 2 thumbs up I see here. Hopefully, because we were quite a small audience. It's really a pity, because registrations were much more than students who showed up. Maybe this is because we have a festival season, the end of Ramadan, and therefore maybe this is the reason why not so many students showed up. But nonetheless, it was really an honor to be your host today, and therefore thank you so much. Enjoy your holiday, and just reach out whenever you want to embark for the program. I think it's really worth each ringgit cent, I would say. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you so much. Have a great day or a great evening. Thank you.